All right, folks, welcome to Unfiltered, where we give our views, and our views do not go through any filtration, but straight and direct. And I have in the house today my son, and we're going to have a very, very interesting discussion. We're looking at the Constitution, two aspects of it. One of the things we're talking about lately is the dismissal of the Chief Justice and all the flag that has come about after that. And also this so-called third term issue with John Dramani Mahama. We'll talk about it. But let me welcome my son in the studio, Ivan. Welcome back, man.
Thank you very much.
Ojaba. No, the pastor. You're the original one.
Yeah.
How you doing, man?
Oh, by His grace, I'm doing good.
Fantastic. And the issue that people are talking about lately a lot, of course, is Chief Justice issue. Your take?
Yeah, I think that is a bit of quite an interesting development. And now the Chief Justice has officially been removed by the President per the provisions of Article 146. And there has been a lot of talk about, but for me, I think we've had previous discussion on this particular subject, and I told you my views. First of all, if you narrow the whole conversation down to the removal of the Chief Justice, you might be making a big mistake. So let me draw you back to some of the circumstances that has prevailed in the past. We were ushered into a very radical awakening in our judicial system when people lost trust, confidence in the institution called Judiciary. The Judiciary is supposed to be one of the foundational institutions of our democracy, because the entire democracy is premised on state institutions, and the Judiciary, the Executive, and the Legislature are the most crucial one. So you cannot create or have a situation where confidence and public trust in such sensitive institution is a bit shaky and wavering. So that is the background we're coming from, and this was brought about by some quote-unquote unwitty political decisions which were made, and some appointment into the judiciary, predominantly into the Supreme Court, where individuals known to be affiliated to political parties were appointed to the Supreme Court. These are individuals, they have the qualification, they have everything, but the optics of it, I've told you that we are dealing with human beings, not machines. These human beings have emotions, they reason, they see things. When you handpick somebody who is a field parliamentary candidate of a political party and appoint him to the Supreme Court, considering the kind of politics that we do here, you break public trust and confidence. And that's exactly one of the things that the former president did. And again, if you look at some of the rulings that in recent times have come from the Supreme Court, you begin to wonder whether those decisions actually do really came from a Supreme Court or not. Because some of the rulings were devoid of common reasoning, logic, common sense, the poverty of logic and intellect in some of the rulings.
Like which ruling?
For instance, we were told that to prove your citizenship as a Ghanaian, you need a passport, but your birth certificate cannot be used as a primary document.
In our country, being born in Ghana doesn't make you a citizen of Ghana.
So if I hold a birth certificate duly issued by a state institution in Ghana, Registrar of Births and Deaths, and it states nationality Ghanaian, are you saying that that is not enough proof of the nationality of the bearer of that certificate?
May I answer you this way? If you had an English person come and live in Ghana and have a baby in Ghana, that person would have a birth certificate. But that person's record of the parents on that birth certificate would indicate that they are not Ghanaian. So the certificate is a record of where he was born. It is not an indication of the citizenship.
Passport, a traveling document. You only procure it when you are about leaving the country. If you are not traveling, I'm not sure people will make it their business to go and procure a passport. So it is a traveling document. But if there is any particular document that is primary, and that can link to where you actually come from, that should be the birth certificate. Because at the hospital where we are, we don't just give citizenship to people because you've been born in the hospital. They will have to trace to who your parents are, where they come from, before it will be indicated. So at best, if that primary document cannot confirm and ascertain somebody's citizenship, and we all know that to procure a passport, you will need that primary document that has been jettisoned to get that particular passport. So these are some of the conversations that people were having in town, and some of these things drill down to the confidence level that people have in the judiciary.
Are you talking about when the what do you call that thing? Your birth certificate was ruled as not sufficient evidence?
Yes, to prove your citizenship. But rather, that could have been a legitimate grounds. But when you cite passports instead of birth certificate, then you create a whole lot of confusion in the minds of people. So that triggered a level of confusion that people, and the sort of bastardization that went on various media platforms. And again, some of the rulings that were filtering out of the Supreme Court, I'm quite sure you are aware of this unpopular characterization that people assigned to the judiciary: unanimous 11, unanimous 4, unanimous, because the judiciary was virtually predictable. People could sit down and see this is the likely outcome, and indeed, so it got to a point people lost trust, and that endangered the prospect of our democracy. Because in a democratic institution, yes, you can have a shaky legislature. The executive has always been on and off, depending on who is in power, but an institution whose fidelity can never be challenged, whose neutrality, independence, and integrity should never be challenged by anybody, should be the judiciary. But if we get to a time and the public trust and confidence in such institution become a bit shaky, then you know there is a problem. And again, there are a catalog of issues that we can chronicle regarding some of the situations that have popped out from the judiciary, some of the rulings. Sometimes.
Quick question: was it shaky because judicially or legally the judgment wasn't sound, or was it shaky because of politics?
It was a complex tale of all these things. It was a hostile mixture of politics, unconstitutionality, where individuals think that I'm in power, so I can exert personal influence and personal kind of conveniences instead of the law. And these are some of the realities. For instance, we had instances, there were several instances where political parties took the Electoral Commission to court when they decided to limit registration to district offices. This became quite a contentious issue. Some people within the NDC and other political parties took the issue to court. What was needed at that particular ruling was urgency, immediacy. But the Chief Justice at the time decided not to give a hoot about that particular issue. People went to court even for a date. They were told that the Chief Justice had traveled. Unless she comes, they were not going to give date. These people deliberately sat down for the Electoral Commission to execute whatever they wanted to execute before the date was set for that particular hearing. So the issue becomes moot because whatever you are seeking to prevent has already been implemented. Similar instance has to do with the e-levy, the popular e-levy when it came. Haruna Idrusu and co sent the issue to court. The date was cited somewhere post the implementation of that particular thing. So you see, we have the whole essence of the judiciary is to ensure that sanity prevails in society. We are able to maintain the balance so that people who have aggrieved individuals will not take cutlasses and pursue others, but rather we walk the fine lines of law to settle societal misunderstanding, dispute, in order to fasten our cohesion and integration as one people with a common destiny. But if the judiciary becomes an instrument of terror, where some individual, by the virtue of the fact that they are in power, can use it as a tool to bulldoze their way through whatever that they want.
And you're saying that's exactly what happened?
That's exactly what happened. And sometimes it was an avenue to buy convenience for government. For instance, in this Afenyomakin versus Babin case, you saw the urgency with which the Chief Justice gave a date for that particular hearing. It was Friday. The Supreme Court was known to be an institution. They were not sitting on Fridays. But because of that particular situation, you see, I am not saying that that act alone was illegal, but so you feed yourself into the larger public perception of biases, because in the past, you've done these things on the other side. When such critical issues come up and people want you to, but at the same time this Afenyo marking issue was heard, don't forget that this LGBTQ issue was on the table, and we were having it very difficult to even get a date for that particular hearing. So all these things fed into the public perception out there, and people did not have trust and absolute confidence in the institution. That brought about the kind of change that people were talking about, because there are instances media houses run popular posts online and people will tell you confidently that, hey, I don't trust the judiciary. Public confidence in the institution were a bit shaky. When you do that as president or as a country, if you don't do anything about such situation, you will endanger the prospect of our democracy. And I think that is why Ghanaians were bent on calling on government to do something about the judiciary. Unfortunately, when Prez Mahama took power, Ghanaians who have in the past been expressing these legitimate concerns decided to. Let me make a point that the president, or it doesn't matter Prez Mahama, whoever is president, the president under the constitution of this particular republic of this country has no power to sack any chief justice. That is the constitutional position. But his power of removal only becomes activated when a petition is sent to him to act as stipulated by law. So in this case, Prez Mahama couldn't have initiated the process removing the Chief Justice, but rather a Ghanaian must submit a petition on a legitimate ground. So we had a petition from 3 different people. They submitted to the president. The president's role in this is to be acting as a conveyor belt. You push it to Council of State to do whatever consideration that they want to do. At the end of the day, the Council of State sat on the petition and they realized that it has substance. And they cannot just trash it, just like President Akufo-Addo trashed it when Professor Kuku-Azan submitted his earlier one, because they felt that the allegations that were cited or the cases that were cited in the petition were of value, and they needed to put it to Educative committee to have a look at these issues. And that's exactly what happened. When that credence was established, per the Constitution, the President had the responsibility to set up a committee, which is stated under the same article 146 downwards. Then the president set up a committee that should be that five-member committee, 2 Supreme Court judges, and then 2 other people, judges and staff. So they sat on the matter with a thorough deliberation. At the end of the day, they gave their recommendation to the president, and their recommendation is what we have seen. But in between, the Constitution says that when Council of State is able to establish premier facie, that is merit, that there is legitimate grounds, and for that matter, a committee should be set up. The president enjoys a certain discretionary power conferred on him alone by the Constitution. There is no ambiguity over this particular clause. It says that when the Chief Justice is when the petition is grounded on a substance, and that there is a need for us to set up a committee to investigate, the president has that discretionary power to sign a warrant, either to let the Chief Justice stay pending investigation or let her go. So you realize President Mahama signed the warrant and asked her to vacate her post or sit aside pending the investigation. And Prez Mahama wasn't the first person to do so. President Akufo-Addo, you remember famous Anas issue when some 4 judges were cited for misconduct and those kind of stuff. When premier facie was established, that there is a substance in the case, President Akufo-Addo signed a warrant and suspended these 4 judges. 1 Justice Derry and 3 others were suspended. They were asked to go and sit home until the final investigation.
President Nana Akufo-Addo, on the advice of the Judicial Council, has suspended with immediate effect 4 justices of the High Court. They are Mr. Justice Uta Paul Derry, Mr. Justice Mustapha Logo, Mr. Justice Gilbert Ayisi-Addo, and Mr. Justice Charles Quist.
According to a statement issued and signed by the Director of Communications at the Presidency, the suspensions follows the establishment of a prima facie case against the 4 justices by the committee set by the Chief Justice to investigate alleged acts of bribery and corruption against certain persons, including the justices, as contained in the 29th August 2015 petition of Mr. Anas Arimiyao Anas.
When the final investigation was concluded, it was recommended to the president that these people should be sacked, and they were sacked. So what John Mahama has done is never a novelty. It's something that has been in play for long. So for me, I think that there is no single constitutional provision that was circumvented. There hasn't been any constitutional infraction that has occasioned that far. Where the Chief Justice had her own grievances, she went to court, and unfortunately for her, she couldn't win. You understand? So I think the whole constitutional process has been allowed to play out fully, unless anybody has any issue.
There were quite a few issues.
Okay.
Unfortunately, politically, there are quite a few issues that this is a threat to Ghana's democracy.
Yes.
Ghana's democracy has been threatened by this.
Yes.
This decision.
Yes.
And we believe that what is happening undermines our democracy and the rule of law. For the Chief Justice to be singled out for this unfortunate attack, flimsy, pedestrian petition, the Council of State has failed the country. And know that it is your institution that is under attack.
What is your view on that? And those who said that included lawyers who I would assume understand the Constitution and understand law, and they are the first to tell you the law is the law. But they were actually participants of the noise that was coming out. This is a threat to the democracy. How do you respond to that?
Yes, I think such arguments are very weak, and it's not grounded on any substance. You see, the argument is that it threatens the prospect of our democracy going forward. So in the wisdom of the constitutional framers, they know that every single position will be occupied by a human being. Human being at any point in time can go off. So they created a window in as much as that particular provision, that particular position is crucial and it fastens the survival of our democracy. They saw the possibility of somebody sitting at the same office and going overboard is the reason why they created a window for removal. And there is no constitution under the sun that gives absolute guarantee to anybody operating under any constitution. Not even the president, who is the most powerful person on this land. There is a window for the president removal. So those calling that we need to tighten the constitution so that going forward, nobody will be removed. That is a very weak argument. Why I did not...
Does it surprise you that it came from lawyers? You're saying it's a very weak argument.
Oh, a very weak argument. Is it?
Does it surprise you that it came from lawyers? And why would lawyers put out an argument that, in your estimation, is very weak?
So you see, when emotions get a better part of your brain, wisdom takes on vacation. And
so their wisdom was on vacation because emotions were a part of them.
By the time it returns, you might have embarrassed yourself in the public, and there is nothing that you can do. You understand? Because you see, the fact of the matter is that if you are arguing that we need to tighten the frame, so that no Chief Justice can ever be removed. What if in the future you are not lucky and if somebody very tyrannical is placed at that particular position and decide to do things in her own way based on her personal twisted discretion without recourse to law order? What are you going to do? It means that you have imposed the devil on yourself and there is nothing that you can do. So we can never create any constitution that will indemnify somebody's position, that will give that person that power and luxury to do whatever that he wants.
But you know, what would surprise me, that seems to be very basic because I know in the past, when I was trying to get lawyers to help me do stuff with some contracts that I had received, one I looked at the contract and they told me there's no escape clause, which means if I sign, I am bound to,
yes.
They must say every constitution must have an escape.
Yes.
This is what you're talking about.
Exactly.
So how can reasonable lawyers be arguing that you should have something so tight that there's no escape?
It's highly unreasonable. And what I'm saying, see, most of them are coming from the past. This radical awakening that the world is exposed to, they are still stuck in the past. They are not ready to grow. But you see, law, constitutions are supposed to be a living document reflecting daily wishes, aspirations. The socio-economic dynamics, the whatever that is happening, must have a reflection on the law. But some people have decided not to update their reasoning, and they are still stuck in the past and using previous understanding of what law is supposed to be to interpret what is happening. But there has been a radical awakening. You see, a lot of things are happening. So you cannot create an ironclad position where somebody sits at a position and nothing can be done. Not even the president. John Mahama, there is a window that can be triggered for his removal. It is there. You understand? So the constitutional framers saw the need to do all these things. But you see, all these people are not considering the fact that we can the probability that we can get a good chief justice the same way we can get somebody who is not good. So in a situation you have someone who is not good and you've tightened all the barriers, it means that you're going to have a problem. You understand? And the constitutional framers in their wisdom envisaged this possibility and they wanted to cure this particular thing. It's the reason why that particular thing was. I was thinking that all these people out there bastardizing and raising whole of concern or ground their argument in law and argue just like the Chief Justice did. She said, when the president gave the petition to Council of State to establish whether there is merit or not, the ruling was not given to her to study. And I'm saying, what ruling? Because the Council of State is not an adjudicatory body. It is a body that is supposed to advise the president. And it is not by force, they are lawyers. There are some who may fortunately be lawyers, some are, but the embodiment, the people who constitute are not lawyers. So it can never be an adjudicatory body who will legally look at issues and says, we have, given a ruling. Council of State don't give ruling. Because if you look at the Constitution, it gives three thresholds within which a Chief Justice can be removed. One is misbehavior, infirmity, both body and mind, and incompetence. These are the three things. So the job of the Council of State is to evaluate the petition to see whether they can situate the petition within these three perimeters. If it does, then the petition is competent. The legal and the constitutional aspect of it must be done by a quasi-judicial team. That is why the Constitution says that after the Council of State job, a proper constitution, adjudicatory body should be given. So if the Chief Justice is arguing that I was not heard, and again, that particular process I've told you is not an adversarial process where some adverse finding can be advanced against you. You'll be accused so that you come and, let's say, to have my side of the story to be heard. That day will be given to you at the committee level. So at this stage is the preliminary stage where the Council of State goes through and establishes merit.
So Ivan, bottom line, what went wrong? Why was there such a big fuss about this? You're making it sound like this is a very simple decision.
Yes.
So what went wrong?
I think that nothing went wrong. You see, people are just being mischievous. And if you listen to the various narrative out there is one common thread. None of them is looking at the issues which were raised in the petition.
What were they looking at?
So for instance, the gentleman who sent the petition chanced on an audit report of the Judiciary Service. So make no mistake, wasn't the gentleman who actually wrote those findings. The Ghana Judicial Service audited the Judicial Service and found out that the Chief Justice has done certain things that they flagged to be inappropriate in terms of financial spending and those kind of stuff. One has to do with traveling to the United States of America with a daughter instead of the security. And there is a reason for that. You are a Chief Justice. You are going for a private vacation. Yes, you may be in a private vacation or going for a private vacation, but you are still Chief Justice. If somebody takes you out there and force you there are certain critical details about Ghana's national security that you know. So in order to avoid that, the law is such that when you are traveling, go with the security. So at the preliminaries, even if there is something, maybe the security can be able to do something before the eventual destination arrive. But this woman decided to place the security aside and go with the daughter, and decided to pay per diem to your daughter. You see, you are the administrative head of the judiciary. You must discharge your duty with integrity, with honesty, and in order to also engender trust and public confidence. If you begin to do some of these things, then it means that you cannot be trusted to head the whole judiciary, because you sit at the pinnacle of judicial power in this country, discharging very sensitive and life-changing ruling. So if these basic things that has to do with ethics, if you cannot get it right, and instead of going by law that you are privy to and decided to place aside the security, and it wasn't for fun that it was stated that security should be added. I've told you, when the president travels today, he cannot decide to go alone, because he's president. If he's kidnapped today, there are certain things that people might force him to do, and that will go against you and I. So if the president is traveling, whether he likes it or not, security must accompany him. Same the Chief Justice. So if you decide to go and give the per diem that is supposed to be given to the security to your daughter, can you be trusted to head the judiciary? This didn't happen once. She traveled to another place, Tanzania, and she repeated the same thing. And it is not me who flagged it. The audit service flagged that particular thing as inappropriate. Okay. You understand? So these are some of the constitutional grounds.
All right. So moving forward, I listened to all the hullabaloo and everything, and I think somehow this is a part of our maturation as a people to this so-called democracy that we have ventured into. I don't think we understand that properly. I think that culturally and traditionally, there are certain things that are innate in us that are in conflict with this democracy that's being introduced. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I understand.
So people just still, like you're saying, old school.
Yes.
Cling on to those old cultural values.
Yes.
And they want to use that. But do you see what I'm talking about? There's a conflict between this imposition of this new democracy and new rule of law as against what we understand to be what is traditional and what is cultural.
Yeah, I understand. But I think from where I say, I think people are just refusing to accept reality. You see, some of the old guys are still some of them still think that we are living in the 12th century. That the average and ordinary Ghanaian is dumb. That, people are gullible. You need to be a lawyer before you understand legal issues. You need to have gone to law school before you understand constitutional issues. I can sit and tell you there are tons of people out there who have never been to law school, but they have deeper insight and understanding than so-called some of the lawyers. You understand? So you see, because now information is fast flowing. It's just a matter of updating yourself. So I think these people must try their best to update themselves, so that they will be in sync with the prevailing both political, social, economic, cultural circumstances that is playing out. But they are not. So sometimes you sit down, you listen to some of the argument, and you find it very weird. When this Chief Justice issue came up, I listened to one professor who quickly came out and said, she has been removed as a Chief Justice, but she has been removed as Chief Justice, but she can continue to do her job as a Justice of the Supreme Court. How can you convince even a class 1 student or a class 1 people to find reason and substance in this particular thing? This is somebody who has been flagged on the grounds of misbehavior, attitude. It means that if that attitude is not fit to discharge your responsibility as a Chief Justice, can the same person sit at the bench and dispense justice? Being Chief Justice and being a Supreme Court judge, which one is heavier? Is the Supreme Court judge, because you need to be a Supreme Court judge before you can become a Chief Justice. Chief Justice is just an administrative role, and it does not dwell much on even, how do you call it, attitude, that kind of way. But when it comes to sitting at the bench dispensing justice, your integrity should be unwavering, it should be ironclad. So if the person has been flagged on the grounds of attitude, that she is not fit for purpose, and you think that person can sit on the judicial. So some of this is just common sense alone, but some of them feel so entrenched in their old stuff. Oh, I'm this, I'm this, I'm this. So they are not ready to update their thinking to be in line with what is happening. And young people are very smart lately. Some of them have never been to law school, but they understand some of these things because common sense is enough incentive to trigger you to understand some of these things. So for me, I think they must appreciate it because there has been a radical political revolution in the mindset of average young people in this country. You see, in the past, if this thing were to happen in about 10 years ago, you see mass agitation because the politician will be so easy to influence young people. Let's go on protest because Chief Justice has been removed. Go to social media. People don't care. They don't give a damn about whether Chief Justice has been removed.
It's interesting you said that because I remember one Dennis Miracles about he said the name. He said he was shocked.
Yes.
The Ghanaians are not angry.
Yes.
He was expecting people to be protesting. And
yes.
He said he was actually taken to the extent where he thought whether people were going to have been bewitched by them. He said,
I don't know why, but I get a sense, I say, and this is for my cast spell be good on my nose. Because you see, who didn't hear? I say, Chief Justice, I say, and I mean, my friend say a serious matter because
before now, who are man for him.
Yes, when I don't expect anger, I expect sadness. I expect. But me who are who be. But me who say. I don't know. Obi, I am shocked.
Why do you think we are not angry? Explain it.
Yes, because you see, when on daily basis we were talking about the judiciary being dirty. When we were talking about judiciary being manipulated, appointments were based on partisan allegiances, affiliation, and those kind of. They listened, they heard it. When the judiciary became dirty in this country, they saw it. When the judiciary was dispensing ruling deemed unreasonable, they saw it. So these young people want to see state institutions being robust once again, very effective for any other individual. It's inconsequential. An individual, they don't care. They care about the larger judiciary sanitizing it so that once again confidence will return. So that once again our democracy will be emboldened. So if you are sitting somewhere and in the narrow-minded thinking that people will protest because you can scan through the public space and you see the caliber of people who are talking. You understand?
Yeah.
People seem to be very comfortable because you live in a country where every single post that is run points to the fact that the judiciary is dirty. Because there were a number of research that I can cite, and there were a lot of tangible reasons that could be, assigned to some of these things. People were not worried. So I listened to Madam Sophia Akufu, and she was lamenting, blah blah.
I'm very sad about it. It has really saddened me. And maybe in a way, I feel very distressed by it. Yes. Mm. The sadness is about the whole process. My sadness is because as far as I'm concerned, it was a very unnecessary. We have been taken through a very unnecessary situation, and which, as far as I'm concerned, and that is my honest and candid view, this has so weakened the institution of the judiciary. And are these and these are not so, to me, they lack the gravity. They lack the gravity that would lead to a grave outcome, such as the removal of the head of an institution of justice. I've deliberately phrased myself that way. It trivializes the position.
And I was asking her, so this same person, was she happy when somebody who was a failed parliamentary candidate, Akufo-Addo appointed that person to the Supreme Court? Was she okay with that? She wasn't angry? Because it's not about qualification. It is about engendering public trust and confidence, because at that point, public trust in this institution was very low. And going ahead to appoint somebody who had contested on the ticket of a political party, it doesn't matter the kind of qualification that you have. You shoot down public confidence. At the time, was she okay with that? You understand? So some of this double standard and this heightened hypocrisy will not grant you audience so far as the young person is concerned, because they will listen to you they listened to you yesterday, they are listening to you today. And again, the processes that she's saying, they are not fair. Did we write the constitution yesterday? Or they were brought from China yesterday? No. This constitution has been with us for a very long time, and people have gone through the mill. Charlotte Osei went through the same process, you understand, and several other people. The thing is that if you are saying that the process is not fair, which aspect of it is not fair? And one they quickly cite is the fact that the petition must be forwarded to Council of State to establish premier facie. The constitution does not state explicitly what should go into that particular process. So as Chief Justice, during her time, she could have seen, said, no, this thing, carrying the thing to Council of State to establish what are the processes, what are the guidelines, so let us come up with a legislative instrument or some kind of a guideline that will help us walk through this fine line. You sat there and hesitant power, another person has come, nobody saw the need to do some of these constitutional touching. Now that the thing has been applied in the past to remove other people, it got to your turn, you are sitting there telling people that it's not fair. I think they should get serious. You do some of these things, you diminish in terms of respect. The aura of respect that people are supposed to have for you, you lose it. Because it's not about who you are, it is about what you do. You understand? And that is what young people are looking out for. And again, the things that the Chief Justice in recent times have done since the activation of this whole process point to the fact that, for me, she has proven to be very incompetent. And I'm happy that she's gone today, because if you go to the Constitution, it says that this whole hearing must be held in camera. And I hope you understand what that means. This is a woman who files a writ in the court and request a request from the court that vary this constitutional provision. I want you to have this particular proceeding being shown on TV. What does that tell you? Because, you know, that is an explicit constitutional provision that can never be varied by any court unless the constitution is reviewed to change it. You understand? Unless the constitution is reviewed to change that particular clause, no court on this land can say, oh, okay, because he's Chief Justice. And Justice Amadou Tanko, JSC, he gave the ruling. He stated clearly that they don't have the power to vary a constitutional provision. The best that can be done is to trigger a constitutional review. So for a whole Chief Justice who should know better, understand the law far better, is asking you that do my own on TV when others' own have been done in the past. And again, when she was denied, she carried the whole petition that is supposed to be held in camera to TV to do a press conference. When you do these things, you give credence to these allegations of misbehavior, incompetence. Because you see, in terms of trouble, how you are able to conduct yourself, how you are able to compose yourself, that lends more detail to who you really are, not a comfortable day. So for me, I think President Mahama cannot be accused of having truncated or having jumped over any of the procedures. And I think none of the constitutional provisions.
I think it's quite interesting. Nobody has actually said that.
That
he had violated any constitutional provision. It is yet to come out. Well, I'm waiting to hear it. But nothing like that has come out.
The only thing you hear is the emotional hymn. The emotional hallelujah songs. Oh, this is not fair. Oh, this is it. But the actual details that individuals were affected in the petition, people don't pay attention to. You understand? Because there are petty issues that are very critical. For instance, there are these people who work at during the Judiciary case. They said the Chief Justice ordered national security officers to storm into a court, an opening court, seize everything, bundle those individuals, and then took them to national security. They were interrogated, and then she dismissed them. Later, a committee was set up to inquire into what actually that happened. And then the committee exonerated these people, and you were asked to reinstate them, bring them back to their job. So I am the Chief Justice. Come on, I'm transferring you to Tamale. So you cannot do these things in this unreasonable fashion, because being a Chief Justice doesn't make the judiciary your bona fide property. You need to tread with caution, treat people with respect, and know that you are head of an institution. And for me, in the course of this process, she has demonstrated enough to prove a point that she's not fit for the job. Yes, I mean, what I recommend is that going forward, President should not have it easy to appoint whoever they want to sit at the Supreme Court as a Chief Justice. And I think those making noise, if people are reasonable, this is where they should channel their energy to. They should make sure that the president,
the process,
appointing, must be very rigorous.
Yes.
So that person who come out of it will be very competent enough, so that we will not be thinking about tightening the protecting the office. Because if you are competent and you're operating within law, why should you worry about a remover? You understand? If there is a political witch hunt, we will see it. We will speak against it. You understand? But as long as you engage in constitutional infractions, you misconduct yourself, there is nothing that can save you. And I'm saying again, there is no position under any constitution anywhere in the world that enjoys absolute protection so far as tenure is concerned. The constitutional framework started that we are human beings. At any point in time, we can go wayward, we can misbehave, we can do, emotions can come in. So they created a window. When such situation ever arises, use this window to get the person out of it. If President Mahama decides to misbehave from tomorrow going, Parliament has that. Yes, you can argue, considering the numbers, he cannot. But the constitutional frameworks have created, it's up to Parliament to decide. You understand? So we cannot build a conclave and put somebody there and treat a person like a demigod. You there, you are Chief Justice. You can't do that. You can't do that.
Let's move on, because the second thing is still to do with the Constitution.
Yes.
And now I think what is on the lips of many people is when the president decided that I'm not going for a third term. I thought the Constitution does not permit anyone to go for a third term anyway.
Yes.
So was it necessary for him to even say it, or should the people have just decided that, well, the Constitution does not, the Constitution prevents a third term, so there's no news here? Let me hear you.
I think there were a bit of cynicism running around because people weren't sure whether President Mahama was going to run. And looking at the absolute numbers that he has in Parliament, people were misinterpreting it to mean that he could trigger a process that will amend the Constitution to have him go again. But I from where I was sitting, that third term wasn't on the table. Because the Mahama I know, I didn't know how he was going to open his mouth and tell Ghanaians that I'm coming again. No, you can't do that.
Pacho, President Onya Tetema Obeko.
Oh, and you know, Omambeni Mama. Minimum obey at least 20 years.
Okay.
Yeah, can't be an hot drug. I don't know.
Okay.
MP before, above baby, ridiculous lies. Sabi impediasa. Nyansa, sorry. I trust someone, sabi impediasa. And to us to most on come. Was in trouble or what? Say, one no most to call because I no credit. Because it's any panel between your canoe. But more than didn't try, sabi impediasa, and sounds on to us. Asana ube to me as a constitution of Ghana. A big united terminal. I was here the bonifant referendum. You'll be a friend entrenched clause. And no, Emra 18 to my gene in the power will be 2 if you are. We here 2/3 of Ghana for Bako to Aba and San Masisa. There's no way I ever to about Ghana part being 2/3 of the votes.
Okay.
In the end, you be simple. So, what's your President Mahama pa also be able to acquire them? I will be a Tiamra.
God, you see, there is this binding contract of trust and confidence that must always exist between a leader and his subject. Ghanaians gave him, they renewed the mandate for him, knowing that he has just 4 years. Come take the stage, do the little you can, put the country on a certain pedestal so another person will come and continue. So in the mind of the president, I am not sure he ever even conceived or ever contemplated, ever said he will be contesting after the second term. But we live in an era where politics is very often can take different dynamics and a whole lot of stuff. So this whole Chief Justice process, when it started, some people linked it to the fact that Mahama is removing the Chief Justice in order to amend, in order to have his way.
His every gesture speaks to a sinister agenda to break the Constitution and amend it and prolong his grip on power, abetted by Judiciary he is desperate to capture. In other words, the president is looking forward to using the Judiciary for a third term.
But the question is that, what has removal of the Chief Justice got to do with amending the Constitution to have a third term? Because if we are going to amend the Constitution, that will not come from the Chief Justice. That is something that will be done by the people of this country. Because if you go to Article 290 of our Constitution, Article 60, which deals with the functions of the president, the tenure, everything, is one of the entrenched clauses. And I'm telling you, you need to go through a hell of a process to have that particular entrenched clause amended, to have him go for a third term. Almost impossible, because you need to have 40% of the electorate voting in a national referendum. When they do that, you need to have 75% yes rate. There is no way you can have that. You understand? So that was an option. And after that, I have seen some conversation in town. Some people have started arguing. When President Kufuor was exiting, he proposed a third term of 5 years. And that other people have also mentioned it. And that there is the need for us to look at that particular provision and change it so that whoever becomes president will have that luxury of going for third term, because 2 terms are not enough. And I'm saying that argument is very weak. You see, people always want to buy convenience wherever they will find it. You see, there is a pressing problem which we have decided to avoid. The problem is that as we sit here, we have not built institutions and framework that will sustain long-term development. We don't have them. But what we need isn't a third-term president. What we need are systems and institutions, certain constitutional framework that can guarantee long-term development. And these are some of the, because if you set the machineries that grow economy in place, we don't care who is president. President can be alternative, but because you have a system.
That's very true.
Yes.
But that comes after when the country has built those structures.
Yes.
Like in the US, it doesn't matter whether it's Democrat or Republican.
Yes.
The structures are there to go in that direction.
Yes.
In a country like Ghana, where 4 years,
yes,
where presidents and structures are built in terms of 4-year durations,
yes,
will that work?
So if you assume that position, then it means that you are not ready to grow. Because we may have a luxury of time to discuss a third term. Why can't we have same luxury of time to discuss building framework and institution that will sustain long-term development? We have. So we are lazy-minded in our politics. And the reason is quite simple. We are always looking at the short-term political dividends that we can cash out of every undertaking. So if I become president, I want to do things that within 4 years, those things may come handy.
Yeah.
Nobody is projecting his mind into the next 20 years, the next 5 years, the next 20 years. What are some of the things that we need to do to ensure we grow the economy? So we don't have a long-term developmental plan. President Mills set up this national development, this thing. It's been a big elephant sitting somewhere, because I don't know what they've implemented, what we have in the next 10 years. You see, so this is what we need to do as people. Let us spend time. Look at our weaknesses. Yes, there are. If you look at the Constitution, it says that when somebody starts something and he doesn't finish, another person should come and continue. But that is not what we are witnessing. So John Mahama built a hospital at Afari. I told you the last time he left power, it was left to rot for 8 good years. How do you call it? This housing project. Sagleme. You see, so we need to have a very binding principles and framework that will force people to do some of these things. So instead of wasting time to discuss third term, which for me has no relevance, we must spend time how to build these framework and structures to sustain good governance. You understand?
I understand it perfectly. How do you react? Because there are people out there, hey, you run the third term. Have you heard that?
Yeah.
No, what do you mean? We won't let you go.
Yes.
Yema President Mahama akwanya biu. Yema na akwanya biu. President Mahama tuaso. Yema President Mahama akwanya biu.
What's your advice on that?
I think it's a semblance of goodwill. And John Mahama has been in power for just 7-8 months. And I think if you look at the science, that the economic science I mentioned the last time, it brings hope. Because in the last 8 years, we were in the ditch. Confidence wasn't there. We were even scared that we may lose our democracy, because there was this cool news that was swelling all over, especially when you look at our neighboring countries and people were swapping constitution for this military junta stuff. There was this fear, but now people seem a bit comfortable. So when somebody warms your heart, you might not want the person to exit. But you see, this is politics, this is governance, this is democracy that we're doing. You cannot fall for those things. Yes, there are people who might want Mahama to run for 1,000 times. They will still vote for him. But you leave the stage when the applause is high. When you do that to buy convenience because you see you today, another person will come and turn you to four terms. Another person will come and take you to 8 terms. You will not have a cause to complain because you started it. You understand? Unfortunately for us, if you go to other countries, somebody can sit at parliament and massage the constitution and then give himself a lifeline. We saw it in Cote d'Ivoire. We saw it in most of the African countries, Togo and Co. Just parliament. But in Ghana, that power goes beyond parliament. It is with the people of this country. We need to line up in a form of referendum to review that particular thing. So it is not an easy task. But I say Mahama not doing it is not because maybe he may not win or not, but it has to respecting the trust and the confidence that people have reposed in you. You understand? And for me, that is very key. I keep telling people that wherever you see democratic institutions and you think that it's being protected by the security, you are a joke. That is not protected by the security. It is protected by you and I, our trust and confidence that we repose in the establishment. The very moment we begin to withdraw our trust, that government is done. That is why in Sri Lanka, when the people decided to withdraw their trust, they walked straight to the presidency, drove the president out. He even ran away before they got there. They were using his swimming pool because at that time, not the military, not the police, nobody can save you because the people, you've broken their trust. And they see you as some sort of an animal. So if you're president, you must always be smart enough to work within this balance in order to sustain that trust. Look at our Jubilee houses. Just imagine a president loses trust and people decide to walk to their place. Can you survive? How many military people can you put there to survive? So you must always walk within these fine lines and make sure you sustain that trust and confidence. Do the little that you can. And President Mahama doesn't need to be sitting at the Jubilee House to help whoever becomes president. As a former president, the depth of experience that he has, he can equally pass it to another person. You understand? When Obama was hesitant, people were saying, Obama don't go, because they saw him to be a fine gentleman who was very young at the time. But he didn't fall for those things. You understand? I think we must be guided by principle, value, integrity, and for me, that is what we are lacking in our politics. Yes, that's what we are lacking.
And because we are lacking in our politics very severely, how do you see this whole thing play out? You know, because I remember very, very carefully the attacks on him. He wants to do 3 years. That's why he's appointed judges, blah, blah. He wants to stay and do another term.
We are also aware that another group in the NDC are pushing for a 3rd term for President Dramani Mahama. What we know is that there is a sinister and diabolical plot firmly underway to tighten the president's grip on power and prolong his days in office. So they knew that the firmness of the Chief Justice will not allow this. So they started to unleash the attack dogs on the Chief Justice to try and clear out of the way, so that they will have their way.
And he says, I'm not going to do it.
Yes.
And the attacks have come. Yes. But why should you even say you won't do it? Because after all, you couldn't do it. The Constitution doesn't prevent you. So it's like you are damned if you do, you are damned if you don't. Yes. Because of where we are in terms of our development, in terms of trying to adjust to this whole democracy thing that has not really sunk in yet.
Yes.
Where is your take on this? Where do we sit?
I think President Mahama should focus on building a legacy that will transcend beyond generation. And I think 4 years is enough for him to do that. Because you see, this is a gentleman who is picking the country from the gutters. All aspects. Social, cultural, economic, all aspects. Judiciary, everything. He's picking the country from the gutters in pieces, trying to piece it together to do something right. I think that he should focus on building framework, institutions, and laying a solid foundation. Mahama should be the foundation of the new Ghana that is about to take off. And he has that glorious opportunity to do that. Fortunately for him, he has been president before. So there is nothing like try and error. He's very fair-minded. You know what you're doing. He knows what will work and what will not work. This is no time to be experimenting. So I think he's a perfect person to lay the solid foundation for a good takeoff. And that is what he should focus on. So in the future, somebody will credit him for being the person who laid the foundation for the new Ghana. And for me, there are a lot of things that he could do. For instance, structural reformation, constitutional review. There are a whole lot that we need to do because, see, if you look at our constitution, like we've been mentioning, you could see clearly that there are several portions of our constitution that have outlived their usefulness. They are not relevant anymore. For instance, the last time I was telling somebody, if you look at this, the age to be president, you can't be 40 to be president. Or if you go to Europe, they've proven that even 30 young people in their 30s can even be better president. There are several provisions that are very archaic. And again, we should also focus on building state institutions and making them very robust. And again, this overwhelming power that is given to the president, I'm against it. One person should not be given the luxury to be appointing over 10,000 people. Yeah. No. Okay, we may assume that the president is wise. So what happens in the unfortunate situation, you get somebody who is unwise and begin to act on a very unreasonable fashion. You've given all the powers to that person. So just imagine giving such excessive, overwhelming, overriding powers to quote unquote a fool. Can you imagine what that fool will use that particular power for? You understand? So I think we need to build checks. We need to build framework that will sustain the growth of the country, that will sustain our democracy, its institution, not individuals. Because individuals will come and go, but this institution will forever be there. So we should focus on building institutions, making them very effective. When Obama came here, he told us that Africa needs strong institution. Institution is not Kwaku. Institution, having very strong foundation, having men who are very resilient, men with integrity, men who can vouch and stand as being the how do you call it, the gatekeepers of this institution. Because when they talk about the institution, they are not human beings. At the end of the day, there are human beings who are going to interface this institution, and these individuals must be credible, must have principle, must have value, so that you know
and
things will not go wrong.
But how do we build those institutions considering this cultural and traditional things that are almost like a DNA lurking strongly inside us?
Yes.
You know, just a quick example, one time I was pulled over just last week by some police guys, you know. They just flagged my car to stop, so I pulled over. And then when they came in, they saw me, KSM,
they'll be saluting you right now.
Yeah, go. I said, no.
You need to do the right thing.
Do the right thing. Yes. I said, So he told me that they were supposed to be checking the license and the roadworthy and everything, but it's me. So I should go. I said, no, check it.
Yes.
So I started advising them like I was having fun. I said, listen, look, this is what is destroying Ghana. SK7, so what? Check if I don't have the right things, then do what you have to do. Exactly. You know what he told me? I said, KSM, So you see the culture? Yeah, this is the culture. This is innate in us. Yes. You know, the inspector will come and say, and one bottom pile.
Yes.
How do we fix this? It's bigger than just talking about we want to change the mindset to.
Yes.
It is ingrained in us. This is our DNA.
Yes.
How?
I think we need cultural reorientation. We need to do that. And you see, unfortunately for us, we are not focused. You see, these things are not done in a day. With these institutions of socialization must be very active now and come to play. But unfortunately, we are losing all these things. You go to schools, this morality, attitude, nobody give a damn about it. You understand? If you go to the various churches that are supposed to be the institution where morality is ingrained, this institution has become an avenue for magic and superstition. Even the moral fiber that they are supposed to insert by teaching people values, principle, they don't do that. It's about miracles. I'm conjuring magic for passport. It is only in Ghana that getting passport to travel to somebody's land is.
They ask you to make your passport to change so that the pastor will anoint it.
Yes. Somebody will go and sleep at the prayer campus 3 months, because he wants a visa to travel to UK.
That's us. That's so culturally ingrained in us.
Exactly.
So how do we,
So I think we need this cultural reorientation, and the state and other institutions must make it a duty just to ensure that we fix this thing. Because until we get these things fixed, we will never move anywhere. Because if you go to Europe, they've been able to, refix themselves to the sense that even the mindset, because hardly would you see somebody drink pure water and drop the thing on the floor.
Yeah.
Something need to And if you do that, there are consequences. If we live in a state where everything comes free, there are no consequences. People are stealing millions, they are going scot-free. You are coming to penalize somebody who dropped pure water on the floor.
Yeah.
You see how those things. So I think that as a country, this excessive politicization has robbed us of our dignity, our very essence as human beings. We behave sometimes, quote unquote, foolishly, even forgetting the fact that we are human beings. I think if we drop this politics sometimes and begin to see how we can build our social cultural integration as human beings, as a one people with a common destiny, who have a responsibility to fix a better play for generation yet to come, I'm sure that will motivate us to do a better thing.
It will motivate us, but how do we even do it? You just said if we drop these politics, we can't drop these. It is so much a part of us.
Yes.
So petty, so partisan. So, you have a great idea if we drop it, but we won't drop it.
So
what do we do?
No, we need everything that we do. We need to infuse in this bit of attitudinal reforms and this cultural orientation everywhere in our politics, everywhere we find ourselves. Because you see, now people have grown to see politics as some special line for wealth, towards wealth. Once you get in, let me just join the partisan or the political bandwagon. My chances of making free money is as high. So people don't come to the stage with intellect. People don't come in with the ingenuity, the mindset that is needed to stimulate growth. People come in with whole of diabolic mindset. People from cultural, different background with whole of their orientation come with. So the state need to spell the rules of engagement. Yeah, wherever you are, you can come in. But these are the rules of engagement. There are consequences for every action.
Yeah.
You see, we are where we are because we don't penalize. And for me, that is the starting point. In as much as I am calling for this cultural reformation, whatever, we must begin to penalize because human beings must have consequences. Even the God who created us has threatened us that if you don't go by his way, he's going to put you in fire. Yes. That is biblical, and even if you go to the Muslim, I think there is also something like that. So even if God who created us has threatened us, if you don't go by his way, there is certain hellfire somewhere waiting for us. How much more human beings? Because in our natural, we are very dangerous people. Human beings must always have a reason not to do something. But if you open the floodgate, it was worse in the past. Have you forgotten about the gathering and the hunting days? People could just go to the nearby village, kill the people, then take their food. Because civilization was nowhere. It was survival of the fittest, remember? But today, society has revolved. Laws have come in and we become a bit civilized. And if you go to Europe, it's different. You can't even trespass on somebody's property. This is the stand we've gone to. You cannot even trespass, let alone entering somebody's house to demand anything. So these are human beings growing from one stage to another stage, but we have decided not to grow. Mm-hmm. We are growing in greed. We are growing in selfishness. I want to have it all. And that is the kind of growth we have assumed. And these things will not take us anywhere. It's the reason why people make it look like God created Europe before he created us. We've all been existing at the same time. But look at where they are, look at where we are. It's because of the mindset, the greed, everybody want to have it all. And if you look at the political stage, it's the same thing. I think we need a renewed mindset. And these things that we do, people don't even see it as important. Have you received any support for doing what you do? Nobody, because some people sit somewhere and say you are making noise. But this is a very critical thing, educating people. And this is priceless, you understand? So as a state, are we doing some of these things just to ensure we free the mind?
No, I agree with you 100%.
Yes.
My problem is where is the starting point? Because, when we talk about all these things, we need the mindset, but if we actually don't have the laws that actually said are enforced, look at the whole fury when Shatawale got involved with the law that some cars were illegal, whatever the issue was, nobody cared. Yes. But how do you dare touch Shatawale? Yes. So you have a whole gang out there resisting and protesting because parliamentarians do it.
Yes.
You can't arrest.
Yes.
You know, this is what we live in. This is the reality of the Ghana we live in.
Yes.
So how are we going to fix that with just talking about mindset change unless the
action? We must start with action.
People don't do what you expect.
Yeah.
They do what you inspect. And expecting is what you're talking about.
Yes.
Consequences.
Yeah, there must be consequences, biting ones, very, 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 very hot ones, so that man will be scared. But unfortunately for us, our politics is not premised on some of these things. I mentioned the last time, if you go to other countries, they go to the extent of sentencing the president to prison. In Ghana, only poor people see the inside of a jail. You can use whatever means to steal. You use the same money to protect yourself. And that's exactly what is happening. So I think that is why I said President Mahama has a very huge responsibility to leave an indelible mark that will transcend beyond generation, and that is ensuring that some of these things are done. Because these are basic. If we don't get these things right, there is absolutely nothing that we can build on that will survive. It will be like washing your feet while wearing the socks. It's a waste of time. You understand? So I think we need to relax and make sure that there are consequences. We make sure people do the right thing. If you go to government sector, there are people who go in the morning, they just sign in and they go home. They don't even come back. Nobody's monitoring anybody. This Raf Rich Hospital issue, wasn't that Raf went there and something happened? Look at the number of issues that has come up since this whole thing happened. The number of people who are... So it means that the institution is very weak. The institutions are ineffective. And you don't wait for something to happen before. It should be an ongoing process that is revolving, checking. Per the report, I'm told about 35 nurses have left. They've vacated posts.
We also found out that, for example, out of 88 nursing staff who routinely work at the emergency department every month, only 54 are currently on duty at posts, with about 34 of them already vacated posts for various reasons. This has brought extreme shortage in the number of nursing staff who also support the emergency medical doctors.
It is the report that brought these things to bear. But before that, they didn't know that something of that sort was happening. And you know that similar thing may be happening in other institutions. So are we effective? You see, our approach has always been knee-jerking.
In the interest of time, you're saying that what the Mahama should concentrate on now is to lay the foundation.
Yes.
And it should be strong enough for others to come and build on.
Yes.
That's your...
Because how we are, there is no room for weakness. No. He has to be very frontal, very radical, but very pragmatic. And make sure you hold the bull by the horn. This is no time to be doing no. Me, I keep telling people, if I'm a president and somebody does something wrong and they will achieve a pastor, if you walk to my house to beg, I'll make sure you'll be thrown to prison.
And on that note, folks, we're going to wrap it up. We're going to have more conversations. This is all the mindset thing we are talking about. This is all about the mindset change that we need, that we are very, very far away from. Yeah, man, crowd, like I said, we are now close. So now let's start. We haven't even come close. There's so much to be done, and you are tasking Jim that his duty right now, with the time that he has, is to build this foundation, or at least set up the structures, and then
and he's lucky enough to have absolute and some tacit support from Ghanaians.
Okay,
people still have that hope in him. People see Mahama as somebody who can bring this revival. So I think he should seize that particular opportunity and lay a solid foundation. That foundation will be the foundation upon which the new Ghana will be built on. And I'm sure he can do it. He is very experienced enough. And he has been there before. And if he's willing to do, he can. He should be very frontal, very radical, very pragmatic. And ensure that he puts his vision across.
Abba says if you are willing, you can. So let's see your will. Abba, thank you so much, man. We'll engage again.
Sure.
But like joke, Charlie, I've not come to Cactus Creek before.
Oh, I'll come there.
One of the few friends I have who have not come to see Cactus Creek.
Sure, I'll come there.
I'm especially on the 14th.
Because
I'm having some amazing Sunday brunch.
Wow.
On the 14th.
Wow. I'll be the first person to come.
Okay.
Yes, I'll come with friends. So looking forward to.
Okay. So come with friends and join us at Cactus Creek on the 14th of September. Up the hills in a brewery and have a great time. See you. Folks,
thank you very much.
Next time we'll do Unfiltered. Anymore.
Yeah, sure, I'll come.